All right, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully, you're doing absolutely amazing. It's so good to see you here inside of our town hall, inside of Leverage Club. Whether you're watching this and rewatching this, I understand the 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern, and 11 o'clock on the West Coast with Tyrone can be a little bit troublesome in the middle of the day. We've been doing this town hall for roughly almost 2 something years. So I do want to thank everyone for giving up of their time. You could be anywhere else in the world, but you said, hey, I'm going to, come in here, see what this dude has to say, see if he's about it, and ask some questions, get some inspiration. But in here, what we do is we make sure we are whole, or as whole as we can be, mentally, spiritually, physically, checking on everybody. It's a time to just reset for your day. I give 45 to maybe an hour of your time. So if you can give of that just a little bit, I would really appreciate it. If you are here and you've been an OG in the community, do not forget to invite your friends, family. I know a lot of you are always saying what community you're part of, so I do appreciate that. So make sure you're still inviting people, or just connecting us, and we can make sure that they're good too. It's not good that sometimes you're the only one in your circle or one of in your circle that's growing, financially, mentally, spiritually, relationally, all those good things. So make sure you're just tapping in and bringing more people into the community if you so choose. Today I want to chat about a couple of different things. I would say that this is more of a news segment. I did think about doing some streaming on YouTube. I've been trying to figure that out because I don't know about y'all, but I watched some Shannon Sharp nightcap, and I watched just some streams and just news outlets, and I feel like I can just chat with my people on here. So we want to talk about this TikTok thing. I want to see what's going on. With the House passed it. I want to talk about what that would look like for entrepreneurs, or just anybody just looking for an outlet to where they can get information. People are shopping on there. People are making money on there. And the reality, is it going to be banned? I think someone's going to swoop in personally and scoop it up. I think there's some talks of some billionaires trying to come together and scoop up TikTok before all that's gone. So I do want to chat about that today and just see people's viewpoints on it. So a little bit of what I say, just cultural awareness or just societal awareness of what's going on. But we've been talking about in here for a minute, right? That if you're going to do something, do it where you have ownership, right? I think we talked about our mentorship call. So, hey, Michelle, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I I never got hip with it. I never got hip with it, but I know a lot of people benefit. They're like, man, I learned so much on TikTok. I just Googled it and I figured out how to fix my sink or this new thing. So, hey, more power to you. But I it wouldn't matter to me either way, to be honest with you. But I do know a lot of creators, and people have been making a lot of money, a lot of teenagers and young folks, and it created opportunities. People are learning new things and exposure. It creates humor for some people if you're following the right stuff. I do realize that, so I do want to chat about it a little bit in here. Just see people's viewpoints before we move on. Put a one down below if you're like, man, I can't let that thing go. Like, that's my outlet. Put a 2 if you're like, I could care less if the thing goes away. Put a 1 if you're like, I kind of like it. Put a 1 if you like, I kind of like it. Put a 2 if you're like, I don't really care. It could go away, and I can go about my life. Hey, I just want to get a little poll. Okay, we got some twos. We got some twos. We got the people that shoot. I don't really care. hey, hey, I get it. Michelle, I mean, Megan said 1. I do see that. I do see that. Um, what's TikTok? What's TikTok? Joel, oh my God. Are you, man, is that a I guess that's a 2. I guess that's a 2. I guess that's a 2. All right. Appreciate everybody for participating in that, and just joining in for that. So agenda, let's jump into it. One, we always read off our daily stoic, right? So there's our daily stoic there. If you haven't, what do I got to do? Block that, right? If you haven't jumped into, reading that a little bit, and also for my spiritual people, I know people are spiritual in nature. There's fasting going on, Ramadan, and there's also individuals that have gone through the Daniel fast at the beginning of the year, or you're just fasting something and trying to figure out how to do a reset with your mind, body, and spirit. So we do have, our devotional in here that I read. I know some people have picked that up. It's just called Walking with God. So, whether you are a believer, whether you're just like, hey, I could care less, I do want to make sure every single time I come in here that, this is an open community, right? But I do not shy away from my spiritual nature. And I go both ways. So I serve a God, but I also, have this universal way of looking at things and outlook. Okay. So let's jump into it. If you could put creed in the chat, we're going to read off our chat, our creed, excuse me, and make sure we get started off on the right foot. Joel, appreciate you joining in, man. I would love to hear down below in the chat, how you found, did someone refer? Did you see me on Instagram? Did we meet before and we don't know it? Like, I'd love to see, was it YouTube? I know, some YouTube stuff have been coming out and people have been following through that. So, I'd love to, hear where you're coming from. I just want to make people feel heard, seen, valued, all those good things, brother. Cool. Your live started popping up on my IG. Dang, that's awesome. That's awesome. So we must have interacted on live before on IG. So I appreciate you. All right. Let's read off our creed. All right. Our creed is what we stand for in here. It's essentially something you could take hold of. And our agenda today is our creed, daily stoic, our walking with God devotional, and then our financial acumen. So we always go over what's going on with the economy right now. We've got some key things: PPI, CPI data, inflation, how you manage your portfolios, your money, the interest rates of consumer goods, and just everything. Okay, so we'll go over that as well for my people that are in here for more of the financial side of things. I am a powerful thought leader. I choose abundance and joy over fear and uncertainty. Every day I'm empowered to be 1% better and maximize my zone of genius. My unwavering spirit will shake the world, and today I have the power and permission to show up unapologetically me. This is what we stand for. If you take anything of it, put a 5 down in the chat if you have encompassed this in some way within your life. Put a 5 down in the chat if you've encompassed some of these things, because I know for me, shoot, every line is important. Every line, that unwavering spirit, sometimes it hits you. It hits you sometimes. It's like, man, like, I'm just not feeling it today. Like, what deep down in your spirit is going to just push you to keep going, or to find a way to pick it up, or whatever you have going well for you to sustain that, right? So let's jump into our daily stoic. All right, our daily stoic. This month is we've moved the time back. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm still not feeling the morning. It's like dark in the mornings, which I love, but then it's like 8 o'clock and I'm like you feel like you're just behind, So the month of March is the month in this particular reading around awareness, right? Around awareness. So today is March 14th, right? March 14th. Self-deception is our enemy. It's a short excerpt. Zeno would also say that nothing is more hostile to a firm grasp on knowledge than self-deception. Self-deception, delusions of grandeur. These aren't just annoying personality traits. Ego is more than just off-putting and obnoxious. Instead, it's the sworn enemy of our ability to learn and grow. As Epictetus put it, it is impossible for a person to begin to learn what he thinks he already knows. Today, we will be unable to improve, unable to learn, unable to earn the respect of others if we think we're already perfect. A genius admired far and wide. In this sense, ego and self-deception are the enemies of the things we wish to have, because we delude ourselves into believing that we already possess them. In summary, so we must meet ego with hostility and contempt that it is deploys us against us, to keep it away at only for 24 hours at a time. In summary, how I perceive this ego is the enemy, is a book by Ryan Holiday, and talks about those highs and lows that we experience at times where we are in our own ways, whether it is we're on our high horse and we feel good about ourselves and we get too high and we feel this sense of entitlement at times. Um, and sometimes to me, we can confuse this confidence, this trust in ourselves as um, an ego that's overextended. So the question to me a lot of times is how do we humble ourselves but still remain confident, i.e., trust in ourselves? And how I try to do that each and every day. Just this is just my belief system. This doesn't have to apply to you. I always read these in context of you taking away whatever you feel you need. The more I set my eyes on being selfless, allows me to be more selfish and vice versa. So if I'm more selfish of my own financial growth, my own spiritual growth, mental growth, then I'm able to deploy that energy into others. And in the middle of that, it allows myself to feel more quote unquote humble or more grounded because I begin to interact with many of you in here and I'm always learning. I'm like, man, like I wonder what Joel is like. I'm wondering what he does. I wonder what he can bring to the table. I want to learn from him. Like, man, I wonder what Tyrone did today. And man, I see Billy at these events. Like, man, like how'd that go? So I'm always curious about what's going on with others. And it allows me to self-reflect to say, what power do I have? Cool. Let me keep growing. Let me keep learning. Let me humble myself for just a moment, step back out, and then enter the world with just, what does our creed say? Just that unwavering spirit, right? But if I am so self-consumed, then that internal ego becomes an enemy. So that's just my summary of how I perceive. Yeah, Tracy, it's called ego is the enemy. 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 All right, let me read one more, and then we'll jump into our devotional. Our devotional. March 13th, which was yesterday. This is a short one as well. It is entitled "One Day It Will All Make Sense." I think that's right on time for many people because right now, I don't know about y'all, but there's a lot of things as I've talked to many of you in here that's on limbo, right? Whether you are in the process of selling your home and you're wondering, man, like, okay, where's the next place? If you are trying to figure out how to make a skill set work, like Joel in here or Joel, right? He'll let me know how to pronounce it properly soon enough. He messaged in the chat and he said, man, I've tried this trading thing and I jumped on your lives and I want to make something work. But for whatever reason, I just keep digging myself a deeper hole. So I got to figure something out. Right. So one day it will all make sense. In quotes, whenever you find yourself blaming Providence, turn it around in your mind and you will see that what has happened is in keeping with reason. That's by Epictetus. In summary, part of the reason we fight against the things that happen is that we're so focused on our plan that we forget that there might be a bigger plan that we don't know about yet. It is not the case that plenty of times something we thought was a disaster turned out to be, with the passage of time, simply a lucky break. We also forget that we're not the only people who matter and that our loss might be someone else's gain. This sense of being wronged is a simple awareness problem. We need to remember that all things are guided with reason, but that it is a vast and universal reason that we cannot always see. In summary, that the surprise hurricane was the result of a butterfly flapping its wings a hemisphere away, or a misfortune we have experienced is simply a prelude to the pleasant and inevitable future. Some might say this one's a little cliche, you know. Dr. B, it's easier said than done. Like we all say that, right? It's easier said than done. Like when is my time gonna happen? When is the thing that I've been trying to manifest and produce in the world, whatever that is, if it's peace, doesn't have to be finances. If it's peace, if it's a relationship, if it's a spouse, if it's, you know, reconnecting with my kids, if it's going back to school, if it's, you know, financial, if it's the business, I don't know what it is for you, but I think we can all recollect and look back on a time where um, we were right at 3 feet from gold, right? That Think and Grow Rich chapter talking about just an extra deep dig, just an extra digging of something that's a little uncomfortable, that investment we need to make immediately, that waking up a little bit earlier, that going to bed a little bit later, that extra push to still figure it out or to study what I did wrong and to turn that around and to make it a win the next day. So I look at these and I'm like, man, that's cliche, but the simple processes of everyday monotony can turn out to be just all those skills into one moment where it just flourishes. Put a, I don't know, just put a one down below. If you have been at the depths of trying to figure out a problem, try to figure out an opportunity, and in the turn of the next day, the turn of the next month, the turn of the next year, something just manifests. Something just, you thought that, man, I thought it was possible, but it actually happened. I don't care what it was. Put a one down in the chat. Put a two if you're like, I haven't experienced that yet. Put a one if you have experienced the turn of time, the turn of something. I don't know what it is, but it's coming to your mind right now. Like, damn, you're right. Like, I was literally on the edge and something just happened. That is where that the first two chapters of Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books, talks about that faith and desire, right? That faith and desire in the middle, that faith that we must have in something outside of ourselves. And then the second piece, that desire to want it, that desire to want a little bit more out of life, right? A little bit more peace. How are you going to get more peace? Okay, I need to leave this job. Well, how am I going to leave this job? Okay. If it's, I don't need to leave this job, Dr. B. Like, actually, I'm okay with my job. It's not the job that's the issue. Okay. Well, how do I communicate with the people around me to make the team better, to make the people around me better? Maybe I need to step up a little bit and be the leader in the situation. Well, what if I don't have the authority to be the leader in this situation? It just is what it is. Okay. Well, how do I pivot and shift the environment that I'm in? Because something's got to change. But if I remain in the constant that I'm in, then the inevitable is going to happen. I'm just going to be sitting as a quote unquote victim, waiting for the victor to appear. I don't know if I'm speaking to anyone today, but that's what's coming to my heart center, because what comes out of my heart is typically what I'm experiencing day to day and experiencing moment to moment. Right. So just because I'm talking this talk doesn't mean I don't walk the same thing as everyone in here. Right. Perception or assumption can be your worst enemy. Right. So whoever you're looking at and seeing them as prosperous and seeing them doing things, what do we say? That the more that you receive, the more that's required of you. So if you're asking for leadership, you've got to display that you are a leader, but also understand that you have flaws too. So you go to bed at night questioning, like, man, how can I improve? And okay, how can I, do this? And then how can I also make sure that I'm okay? And taking away time for myself, all those things, right? How do I stay relevant? So let's jump into this devotional. Jump into the devotional. Jump into the devotional. All right. March. Turn on. March 14th. March 14th, entitled Dark Nights. Dark Nights. Man, it's getting real deep around it. Like, golly. Um, but when you hear these words, I want you to, I always say during this moment of these readings where it can seem a little, okay, like this is serving me, however you feel, just try to take a moment for yourself. I know some of you are at work and doing other things, you're trying to multitask, but just try to take a moment today when I'm reading these words and see how they're hitting you. So is it hitting you deep where emotion is coming up? Is it hitting you to the point where you're like, you're getting excited because he's right. Like something's right. I got to change something. I'm going to do it right after this call. Right? Dark Nights is the title. You have tested my heart. You have visited me in the night. You have tried me and have found nothing. I have purpose that my mouth shall not transgress. This is Psalm 17:3. um, I don't want to mispronounce this. I do believe this is Latin. I'm not sure. La noche oscura del alma. I think that's, hey, y'all let me know down below. Is that Spanish? Is that, I don't know. I don't know. The Dark Night of the Soul is entitled. That's the name of the poem written by St. John of the Cross, a 16th century Spanish poet. While he was in prison for trying to reform his monastic order, the dark night represents the difficulties and the trials we experience on the road to heaven. Dark nights, in quotes, also pictures the isolation we feel during times of spiritual tests. We sometimes lie in bed at night surrounded by darkness, longing for sleep but consumed with our thoughts and questions. The psalmists, especially David, were candidly honest about their literal and spiritual dark nights. David made good use of his sleepless nights, crying out to God for relief and answers. And he relied on the natural order of things to remind him that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. In summary, if you are in the midst of your own dark night, use the time wisely. If there are tears, let them water the words you pour out to God, remembering that the joy comes in the morning. Put a 4 down in the chat if you're like, man, I kind of needed that. Put a 4 down in the chat if you're like, man, I kind of needed that. Put a 5 if you're like, yeah, it was a good reminder for myself. It's a good reminder. I always say for everybody in here that you don't have to be struggling, right? Like you don't have to be struggling for these words to resonate. When people say, man, it's just too deep for me. Like that comes up a lot. And a lot of times when I hear people say, folks don't got to get so deep. Like just live. I question that person because our emotions drive our behaviors. So whether you're trying to be as masculine, energetic as possible, trying to solve problems for your family, trying to figure out how to solve problems for your clients, how to figure out how to solve problems for a job or a company where they're paying you pennies on the dollar compared to the $1 billion market cap that they have. Like you're trying to figure out all these things. And I'm trying to see, how do I play a piece? How do I fit a piece in the big puzzle? So if you're ignoring that and you're looking at your life right now and you're like, man, I'm coasting. Everything seems good. I'm on track. Everything seems good. Everything seems good. That's not a bad place to be in. But I guarantee you that all the people that are in here right now and that are watching on YouTube and rewatching this town hall, I guarantee you that something came up from the depths. I guarantee it. It happens to the best of us. Some of you might even be getting choked up right now because I tend to do that to folks. That's a powerful thing to just release, because that means it's been bottled up for too long. That every day you wake up, it's another thing to try to figure out. So in here, inside of our community and Leverage Club, it always shocks folks that come in here sometimes because they're like, man, I thought I was coming in here for financial stuff and credit stuff and all these things. I'm like, man, you don't know. You don't know. So I say all that to say in summary that I pray that everyone in here, if you're in here today, if you're re-listening or you're in a moment right now, that you take it and you run with it and you explore it. Because if you're in here, we're not, think about this. None of us in here, for the most part, knew each other at all 3 years ago. Think about that. In the lifespan that you've been on this earth walking, why have we come to this point on a Discord platform that was created by other people that allow the opportunity to come here on a Thursday on March 14th, 2024, and you're here listening to this? Does that not, that should mean something that, wow, something's brewing here. I don't know what it is, but I need to be tapped in. I need to pay attention. So I show up each and every day for myself first, being selfish so I can be more selfless. But I also ask myself, why in the world are we here right now? Why in the world did someone decide to click and join today? There's something there, because it only takes one thing, one word, one post, one just shift of energy, shift of environment that allows you to just say, man, like I'm just about to just shoot for the stars at this point. Right. So happy Pi Day. Happy Pi Day. Hey, there's some deals out there. Go get you some free food. I think some pizza deals out there. Hey, I might get me a pizza tonight. I don't know. I was a chemistry major as well. So this resonates home. And it was always the chemistry jokes. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, you're a chemistry major. It's Pi Day. Ha ha. But anyways, I ask myself that all the time. And I'll round this out. I ask myself this all the time. You think about your life and you're like, how did this transpire? What was God cooking up that you go from small town, middle class Alabama to a chemistry major, cooking up in the lab, figuring things out, to pharmacy where you're trying to put band-aids on problems. And then you finally decide to just choose yourself and say, man, I think this sounds absolutely ridiculous. But if not me, then who? So that's in everybody in here. Everybody has that special, just it factor. And some people in here have found it and they've just ran with it. Others are still trying to find what that is. Explore it. And also explore what makes you whole. What do you want to talk about? Right? Because people will say all the time that you're crazy until things are actually working out. Right? So you can choose to pivot anytime. All right, let's keep it moving. Put a 5 in the chat if that serves you. Just that whole thing, just everything that we just talked about. Put a 5 in the chat. We got about 15 more minutes, so I want to make sure that people are alive, they're well. We'll start summarizing this and rounding us out with the economics, and then also just some personal things. So let's talk about it for a second, okay? Okay. If anyone wants to come up here, you're more than welcome. But this this TikTok thing, I'm not gonna get on too long. This TikTok thing, the House, okay, the House has passed. Let me make sure. The Senate, what is gonna happen? Right, what is gonna happen if that transpires? That's what I'm curious about. I think it's a little bit overdrawn. It's in people's minds, if this goes away, where will they go and what would they do? I have two viewpoints. I think number one, I think that I said earlier today, or earlier in this chat, if you weren't here, that I do believe that someone might swoop in, some billionaires might swoop in and just grab it up, and not let it, just dissipate. There's too much money to be made on the business side and on the consumer side. So, I think that that might happen. I think also that, it's a little drawn out that the House passed it and that the Senate might let it draw out and then say, nope, we're not going to do it. It won't even make it to the president's desk and we just go about our lives. But on the other hand, if this actually transpires and it does get rearranged, I should say, rearranged to where, maybe it's down or maybe, there's limited things that happen with it and it just goes away, that's a possibility. So I'm leaning more on the side of optimism that it could just stay. I think there's a lot of, it's crazy to think about that people would riot over an app. Like, what world have we gotten into to where there would literally be riots in the street and boycotts and all kinds of crazy stuff if an app goes away? So civil unrest for a social media app. That's wild to me. It's that's wild to me. It's happening in my industry as well. Strong move away from drones built by Chinese companies, contractors even requiring pilots to be able to fly American made. It's man, I this election season is going to be very interesting. I don't even want to talk about politics, but I'll just say, is this the best that we got? That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say. We're here again. Okay. We're here again. So I just know we need a change. I don't get too involved in politics. But I just know we need a change. But I don't know. Everything is just lining up in a weird way. Like I'll talk about in a second from our economic report. We've got high inflation data, CPI and PPI coming in hot. That means your consumer goods are going up gradually. I heard someone say they paid like $15 for a jar of mayo the other day. I was like, $15 for a jar of mayo. My mom, like, it's just so when there's scarcity and fear in the market, there's opportunity. So what I like to look at from these situations in this community is always allow people where, since we're on a month of awareness, just be aware of what's going on. Just be aware. But when there's fear, look to where there's opportunity. Okay, well, if this shifts this way, where's going to be the opportunity? Is it going to be in online media? Is it going to be, back on YouTube and Google? Is it going to be back to in-person connections? How will your business change and evolve? Do you need to have an online presence more? Is long form content, I see now more so where live streaming and personal development streaming and people trying to connect kind of like this, right? Like people are tired of the short snippets. They'll look in the, I've done some of them where you're cleaning and, it's just this holistic feeling, right? But if I want to chat with someone, I want to get to know someone, I want to hear them live. I want to hear them unedited. I'd rather listen to a 30-minute, an hour podcast or put it on in the background or hear someone talk and chat it up with folks, right? So I think that's where we're headed personally. But yeah, yeah. Let me throw it into the chat or the crowd. If anyone wants to jump up and give their viewpoint, I always allow people to have their voice in here. You're more than welcome to jump up on stage and say, hey, appreciate this or whatever you want to say. It's just like an open forum here as we round out these last 10 minutes. But yeah, just that's what I've been on, focusing on myself, focusing on the business, but also, there's a changing of the guard coming. And what historical context does that bring to the way we operate business, to where companies are operating? What type of ways of living are we going to, be in the next 5 years? Who knows? You mentioned a personal update. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Personal update. Just me personally? Me personally? I am, I hate the cliche like, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I will say I'm in an exploration season. I'm in an exploration season. And why I say that is because when you're in these, it's almost like how do I say this? It's almost like a stock chart. You're just up and down and up and down. But My dips are always preparation for explosions to the next season, right? I had a slight dip in exploration in 2019, 2020, and then 2021 and 2022. There was the question of like, where did this dude come from? Many of you I met on Clubhouse, right? So 2023, 2024 is like, okay, what's next? Right? So when you hear me speak here, right, oscillating, yeah, oscillating. When you hear me speak in here, you're like, yo, where is this on like YouTube? Where is this on social? Where's the Dr. B with the 1 minute clips of like the aesthetic, like sitting down with the mic? And I need to hear that again. When you're a thought leader, like many of you in here, the brewing season is the most powerful season. And those that are tapped in close proximity see it. Like everyone on the outside is almost like, okay, um, what's going on? Is it's that curiousness to where the person's going, what they're up to, right? So I'll just tell everyone in here that when you see myself or you see anyone else in this brewing season, maybe there's not as many stories or maybe there's not as many posts every single day. Many of y'all know me in here and you've known me in here for 3, 4+ years. That is a good season. I'll say that. That is a good season. More specifically, personal updates. Myself and my girlfriend Ashton, we're looking to make a shift of environment. So we have, I know people have been curious about the next, just marinate it, man. Marinate it. It's that marinating season. Um, we're looking to make that next step into, y'all like, ooh, that next step into what? Yeah. But the next season of an environment. Um, Dallas has served us well, but I think it's about that time. It's about that time. When you just like I just not getting that the more that I push it, the more I try to make connections, the more I go out and try to make, that when I look outside, do I feel inspired? It's starting to it's starting to dim, right? So we're looking at Las Vegas. We're looking at Austin. We did consider Chicago, but we personally don't feel like, again, not going in political stuff, but we don't feel like living in a downtown Chicago during an election move is maybe the best bet right now. So we're just kind of thinking in that manner. So Vegas and Austin are those Midwestern winters are brutal. Are brutal. Yeah, man. The more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I can make it those Chicago summers, but I can just go visit in the summer. But yeah, it is the best bet. The winter was very mild. Yeah, Rashida, I know. It just keeps pulling you back. Um, but those taxes, those taxes are important. So no state income tax is you don't feel it until you feel it. So here in Texas, that's a benefit. Also in Nevada is a benefit. And I've learned that I'm in a season too where I I like space, right? And what I mean by space is, do y'all remember? Some of y'all do when I was going on my immersion trips very frequently, right? Very frequently. And what I felt in Dallas is I have to jump on a plane every single time I want to escape, and escape in a good way. So when I'm looking for an environment, I'm looking for escapes into mountains and nature. And even though I'm not the most outdoors person, the most, Paul Bunyan type of person, I do really appreciate like space and the quietness a lot of times. So when I look at Vegas and I look at Austin, I do see those abilities to escape to nature. Um, so I'm like, man, I can go up to Zion. I can go over to Mount Charleston. I can go up to Lake Tahoe. I can go down to Phoenix. I can go over to LA, visit Tyrone. I can, yeah. So, what space in Austin? Yeah. I mean, there's hiking trails and there's obviously, Lake Colorado. What is it? Lake Colorado or Colorado Lake? Whatever Colorado River coming right through there. I believe that's it. So, yeah, I have I do see Austin as, having the ability to go into nature around. Yeah, it doesn't have space, right? I understand that, but yeah, I might be your Vegas neighbor as well, but I'll also consider Chicago home. Yeah. So that's a personal update. Man, I love chatting with y'all. I appreciate y'all. Some of y'all like listening to just personal updates. I don't want to ramble on for just my own sake, but I think it's, when you're in a community, it's important to understand where, everyone is, and especially the creator of the community, like what's going on. Is he good? So I appreciate the concern, or just the curiousness. What else? As far as business goes, I've been challenged to, um, I know I always give an update in here, and we're rounding out. I always give an update as to business and innovation. If you saw my post recently, I've been kind of challenged or called to innovate into something, uh, just different, right? And I don't know what that is yet, but coaching and thought leadership will always be at the forefront. But to me personally, the elevation of that needs to shift. And what I see is one of two things. Either you hear myself on a streaming platform such as YouTube, and I'm streaming, and giving my thoughts, and it goes into a podcast, and I get more active on that level. Um, Either getting back, I don't say either, I will speak it into existence. Getting back on the speaking circuit, I've missed that tremendously. So getting back on the speaking circuit, which I've been invited to a couple of events and speaking engagements, but I haven't been promoting the speaking as much as I used to. So that is something that I really value. Yeah, Summerlin, Nevada. Yep. That Southwest, and then also Henderson. So yeah, that whole area. Um, so when I look at the business model that I'm operating right now, Leverage University is at the pillar, right? We have Leverage Club is the community. Leverage University is just our overall university. You come in and you learn everything, right? And then there's still the mentorship, and there's still the mastermind level working one-on-one, right? That's business model that I will keep, until it just doesn't work anymore, until none of them had to invest or say, hey, this is worth it anymore. But I will never give up the consultant and the coach and the teacher in me, right? You're just trying to fine tune it to where how it can work in the best way possible, right? So, um, offers, I don't consider reinventing the wheel. I don't really consider reinventing the wheel. I think, uh, okay, spacing out. Okay, am I good? Am I good now? Maybe I'm talking too much. Am I good? Can y'all hear me? Choppy. Okay, a little choppy. Rashida, can you hear me? Or I'm chopping? Rashida, can you hear me now? Am I chopping, or I'm a little bit better now? No? All right. Is it better now? A little bit better? Okay. I just had to tap out and tap back in. Awesome. So I'll summarize all this because we're at the top of the hour. I think some of you, if you're staying here, you appreciate my as Marcel would say, rambling. But I'll round us out here. Michelle asked a great question. Personal update, doing well. Business update. Everything in our community is the same as usual. There's no reason to come out with a new offer or anything like that. The only thing that's on the horizon is when, where, and are we still doing the mastermind in person this year, right? So that is at the height of my where I'm working on what I'm working on right now. Um, I still am working with a lot of individuals one-on-one. So there's a lot of, um, how should I say this? Manufactured programs, right? So here's how it would sound for many people in here, just to summarize it. There's a lot of individuals that have been reaching out like, hey, like I need a little bit of consulting. I need something like that's a little bit more individualized, but I don't maybe need 6 months or a year or whatever. Can we shorten it to a time frame? I can do anything, right? So I'm my own business, right? So that's where I've been working with individuals one-on-one is, that 1 to 2 to 3 month time frame, and then working through that slowly but surely. I think that is where people are right now, is trying to make sure that they get that one-on-one attention, but also, they're trying to figure out other stuff that's going on. So that is where the business model is right now. Our trading floor is still doing well. So that's just a part of Leverage University. It's not taking over this club or anything of that nature. It's just another offering to where people are benefiting and they can learn something. So our trading floor is doing well. Um, what else? I'm very passionate about our coaches, right? Our coaches and consultants, people that want to still develop businesses, right? So do not let that go astray, that, your personal brand is still going to be something. I know people are working on that if they are trying to develop something. So our e-commerce section, how do I sell something online? How do I get my digital products? How do I, sell and negotiate? That's a expertise of mine. So I love sales. I love negotiation, love all those things. So there are people in this community that are getting leads, but maybe not closing those leads. Maybe they don't even know a lead is there, right? That someone's reaching out to them, or they have a skill set and they don't know how to monetize it yet, all those things. So that is still something that I'm very, very passionate about. The trading stuff is just a piece of this, right? Those are skills. It is not who I am. So, yeah, I missed my one-on-one meetup. Womp womp. Got to set something aside to reschedule. Yeah. We can reschedule that last one and then keep it moving. And I'm excited, Tracy. I'm excited. Have you heard that Costco is now selling gold bars and silver coins? What are your thoughts? Yeah, I think gold and silver are powerful. I think they're powerful to pick up. I think it's been talked about for decades at this point. So yeah, I wouldn't put it past, people picking up bars and gold and silver. So yeah, those hard assets, financial assets are still valuable. So, um, any thoughts, questions? Those are good questions. I appreciate it. Or just curiousness. I think it's valuable to throw those things in here. I want to shout out a couple people in here. Shout out a couple people really quick and not put the eyeballs on me and put it back on you. I appreciate Joel for joining in. Appreciate you, man. I'm excited for you. Tyrone, wrapping up and making sure that his funnel and site are all together. Gloria, appreciate you coming in here all the time. Thank you so much. Ben, always a valuable asset in our community, especially in the trading side of things or just investing side long term. Rashida, just I'll just say Rashida. Okay, she is so funny, just in a good way. In a good way. I laugh because you bring joy to the community, Rashida. Rashida has, absolutely just, have gone to the highest of highs and, had some losses. But inside of our trading floor, she made roughly about 8 to 10 grand in the last week, just taking some of our trades and calls and within a 5 day span, which is wild. So, yeah, 8 to 10 grand roughly. Easy $1,000 days here or there, just taking some of our trades. So do not go too far from this community. I know sometimes you have other things going on, but just make sure you keep tapping in because I'm trying to make sure as active as possible. I want to shout out my brother, Richard, Dr. Harris, in his community, right? Just if you've not tapped into Nimbus Health Club, you stuck with me. Nimbus Health Club. Make sure you're tapping in with that. One of the most intelligent, good friends of mine that is just changing the nature of health and wellness. So I implore people to tap in if you need health questions, if you've got any health concerns. We got a community member in here and also a coach speaker. You can reach out to Dr. Harris. All right, Donald. Donald always tapping in ever since the beginning. I appreciate you, Donald. Peggy, Peggy, just a curious nature about herself that every single time she comes in, it's just always bringing that joy of curiousness to our community and asking powerful questions. And Donald and Peggy, a part of our mentorship, and other people in here. Tyrone, we jump on every other Monday. Megan, what do I say about Megan? Megan is in an interesting season of making powerful decisions for herself. And you're like, well, that's me too. But I would say that I'm excited for the growth. I'm excited for making decisions for herself and starting to see power within herself and starting to see that there is, um, a skill set that's been bottled up for a minute. There's something there that's trying to relinquish. And the only person that's in Megan's way is Megan. Right. So I'm excited for her next step in season. Tarina made a powerful shift this last year, finally getting her business off the ground. Her revelation, she might say, it was late and she's still trying to figure it out or whatnot. But you can't deny that someone has made the decision for themselves to actually like put it out into the world. A lot of people have ideas. A lot of people are saying they're going to do something, but until they put it out in the world, until it's real, right? It's just still an idea. So the fact that you have a site, the fact that you have people that have bought something from you, I think that's the biggest thing is when someone puts their hard-earned dollars into you and it's not through a job, right? Or another business, whether they pay you to speak, right? My first speaking check, I was like, man, like this is crazy, right? I know Dr. Harris can relate, other people in here. When you get someone to say you are valuable enough that you did it, you started it, you said I had this to offer, and someone decides to pay you for it, that's a different feeling, right? So deployed Detroit with FEMA. Oh man. So you're deployed now into Detroit. So pray for Tarina. Pray for Tarina. She is a trooper when she goes and helps and supports. I think you were deployed once before as well, Tarina. Maybe it was to Houston or New Orleans or something where you went and helped out with FEMA. So yeah, just pray for it. Man, we got some just saints in here. Just people just willing to give. Crazy. Finally, Zay, Tracy, they've been here for a minute. Zay's a good friend of mine, Morehouse brother. So we knew each other in Morehouse. And ever since he was, I always say this, he was one of the first to invest into, if not the first, to invest into the official like mastermind level. If y'all didn't know that, right? When I announced, for those of you that invested into my mastermind level, one-on-one for 3 6 months, a year's time span, you know the investment. Okay, you know the price. He was literally one of the first. I will never forget it. I think it's a powerful story. He he said, "Hey man, I need some support." And when a friend or someone that you look at as a peer actually sees value in you and says, "Man, I because that's vulnerable. That's very very vulnerable, right? When you come from the same space, like Morehouse Brothers and whatnot, and you say, "Man, I need a life coach, right? I need someone to guide me in the right direction." That I took that very personal, right? But I remember he put the deposit down, right? And since we live in Dallas together, he called me literally, what was it, Zay? Like hours, right? Hours. It had to have been either the next morning or hours. He said, "Man, come pick up this cash off of me." He literally withdrew an amount in cash from the bank account, right? I'm not getting into his personal finances, but he said it was an investment. And I took that very seriously to make sure that I told him, I said, "Hey, from this point on, it may not happen in 6 months. It may not happen in a year. It may not happen." But Megan asked great questions. Yeah, it may not happen in the next 2 years. But ever since then, what was that, 2019, Zay? Ever since he made that investment, I I feel like I got gypped. Probably, I don't know, 2x, 3x, 4x, whatever that was. He probably forgot about what it was at this point because it was a lot at that point. But I say all that to say, not for me personally, but I just appreciate those that whatever decision that you make now, what? No audio. What? Is it me? No audio? Or y'all can still hear me? I'm wrapping up. Oh, y'all can hear me? Okay, you're good. Like messing with me, Peggy. um, whatever decision you make for yourself, this is not a personal promotion for me. The decisions you make now, these decisions sometimes will not be impactful in potentially the next year. You might not have the revelation until 2 years. You might not have the revelation until 3 years, whatever that is for you. So if you need decisions to be made right now, make sure you're making those decisions as expeditiously as possible, right? Because the more that we delay, including myself, of moving, of shifting environments, of saying we need to do this now, whatever it is. So, that being said, I've gone on long enough. I'll come into here after doing our power hour instead of the trading floor in the market analysis section. See if there's any, final little power hour trades. But other than that, thank y'all so much for being a part of this. And yeah, I appreciate you. All right. Let's jam out for a second. I don't know what it is. Yeah. Hmm. I ain't got my tunes ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have no tunes ready today. So that's cool. I'm waiting to hear your thoughts about me, Tracy. Oh my goodness. Cannot forget about Tracy. Cannot forget about Tracy. Tracy, man, this is curious. Y'all really interested in hearing my thoughts. Needed it. When I think of Tracy, I think about someone that's committed, regardless of how hard it is to people. So why do I say that? Because even though the distance is there, sometimes in the community or wherever it might be, Tracy was one of the first to sign up for the mastermind last year, like the in-person one. So, hey, is the mastermind happening this year? Like, I'm already ready to go. Right. Same thing with her family, same thing with her clients. She over delivers in thinking about others. Right. And that's a powerful trait because I resonate very much with that trait when you're giving so much to other people, right? You're almost that yes person. Like when someone says, do this. Hey, hey Tracy, can you do this? Hey, can you pick this up? Hey, can you, fit me into your schedule real quick? Hey, I need a quick, hair appointment before my event. Can you fit me in? Like you're always going to be that person. And I'm saying not just Tracy, but that is the type of person, including myself, that cares about people. And that is the type of person that has so much power in the world. But when that person decides to put up a wall, it is going to be the hardest but most powerful decision that that person can ever make. Because with the power of loving people and caring for people, when you put up that wall, it allows you to finally say yes to yourself. Finally say, like, yo, like, I need to figure out my stuff. I need to make sure I'm good. I need to do more for me. Right. That money that was supposed to go to X, Y, and Z or to help someone else out. No, like that's my money. I'm going to spend it on what I want to spend it on. I'm going to invest it on what I want to invest it into. Right. So a lot of times that the sacrifice that we make for our family, for the friends, the loved ones, at some point you've got to say like they're grown. At some point you've got to say like, that's sorry, can't do it, can't help you. And that's what's going to get you to the next level. And if you think about it, that's going to allow that other person to empower themselves. Because we do have a lot of leeches, right? Like grown folk leeches. And what do I mean by that? People that think they need like coattails, like they need to hang on, they need help all the time. They need to make sure that everything's good, right? That is that type of, when you relinquish that and you go into a silent moment and you say, man, I can figure this out too. I can put a little bit more effort in to make this a team versus me being the leader, right? So that's what I see in you, Tracy, and that's a powerful thing that I see in you. And if that resonates with anyone else in here, that's cool too. So I resonate very much with that because you see it in this community. How many times are y'all like, how does this dude show up on market analysis calls, show up on a town hall, do the morning thing, do this? Like, I'd be cool if Dr. B just didn't show up, maybe for like one of the things. Like, I'm cool with that, right? Like, that is me. So I understand that, right? But what I say to a lot of times is if I've done my due diligence and put the stuff out there, they've got to do the work. They've got to click the button and take the trade. They've got to start the business. They've got to go out and put themselves on social media. They've got to click the button and invest. I can't keep pulling strings, right? So that is the thing that you a lot of times need to relinquish, and that's what I see. So hopefully that helps or empowers you today. All right, cool. Now we're officially wrapped up. Thank you all so much. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Until next time, I'll see you on the market analysis after this. I'm going to do it for about 30 minutes until close, and I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my day and figure out what's next. All right. If anything comes up, you're more than welcome to message me privately. If it's just, hey, I enjoyed this. Hey, that resonated with me. Here's feedback. How can I do this? How can I do that? Like, my DMs are open to the community for questions if you need a little bit more personal, and I can lead you in the right direction. All right. Talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.